Welcome to Forest for Fish. My name is Mike Smulligan. I'm a forester with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and in this third and final session, we'll take a look at some of the resources that Forest for Fish provides for loggers and foresters and for landowners. So what does Forest for Fish provide to professionals? So what we're really trying to do here with Forest for Fish is provide a bridge between the forestry and the fisheries communities and to really help loggers and foresters to have a conversation with fisheries biologists about what we can do to manage forests well to provide great fish habitat and water quality. But there are some other specific things that we're trying to do here with Forest for Fish. One thing we're trying to do is get a bigger presence on social media to promote good work being done in the woods and to showcase loggers using best management practices. We've got a Facebook page that we try to post on weekly, and one of the things that we're looking for this year is photos of best management practices from loggers. Michigan SFI this year has some additional funding through the DNR and the Forest Service to provide $50 gas cards to loggers coming to core training. And we're giving these out because we want to get photos from loggers that are using BMPs in the woods, minimizing ruts or putting in a good stream crossing or building a new road or showcase, just take a picture with you and your spill kit, on your skidder, something like that. We want to showcase good BMPs and we want to use these photos on social media to show the public that loggers are doing a really good job protecting water quality here in Michigan. We've got some other educational materials available at our website at forestforfish.org, and we're trying to provide some tangible benefits for both loggers and foresters. The Forest for Fish project provided funding to get 137 new members in the Michigan Association of Timbermen, and we have some additional funding this year to provide crane mats for members of the Michigan Association of Timbermen. So contact Denise Pallarito and others at MAT to find out how you can get access to some of this funding to increase the use of crane mats here in Michigan. With foresters, we provided some funding to increase the number of foresters in the Association of Consulting Foresters, and there's some additional funding this year for foresters who are doing a site visit for the American Tree Farm System. That's at no cost to the landowner, but there's a significant cost to the forester to go out there and provide this site visit, and so we're providing $200 to foresters to do a tree farm site visit. How about for landowners? Forest for Fish is again trying to connect landowners and anglers to learn about forest management and water quality and using BMPs and all the good work that loggers are doing in the woods. We do that through our social media page there on Facebook and also have educational materials that are going to be of interest to landowners in addition to foresters and loggers at forestforfish.org. We're really trying to connect landowners with foresters to develop a forest stewardship plan, and there's some cost share available for that. And again, a tree farm site visit is free to the landowner, and we're really trying to encourage landowners to certify their land through the American Tree Farm System, because all tree farms that are certified in Michigan, when those landowners harvest wood, that wood is actually certified through SFI's chain of custody. So we're really trying to make certification more common with family forest landowners as well as the larger corporate and government landowners that are certified through SFI. We also want to connect landowners with a logger, and since the Michigan Association of Timbermen is the primary partner on Forest for Fish, we've got their website highlighted on forestforfish.org and trying to connect loggers with landowners with a logger who's a member of the Timbermen. Forest for Fish has some great publications on our website at forestforfish.org. If you go to the website, you'll see that we've got a lot of resources on there. And if you go to the publications page, we've got a dozen or so publications explaining all kinds of things about the role of wood in aquatic ecosystems and how wood is good in the water as well as on the land. Got information about riparian forests and trees and other shrubs to plant in riparian zones. All kinds of good publications on the forestforfish.org website. We also have some really good inspirational stories and some educational videos available on the website. On the stories page, we primarily have stories of landowners that are taking really good care of their forest and are members of the American Tree Farm System and live along a river and are really doing innovative things to take good care of their forest and provide great water quality. This one young man that you see in the picture on the far left, his name is Parker Vandenberg. He's a junior in high school in Fremont, Michigan, and his family lives on the White River in Newaygo County, just west of White Cloud. And Parker's done a really nice job of doing some volunteering for Trout Unlimited, doing some monitoring of the river, and he was even able to help find some soil erosion from a culvert that was eroding underneath a road nearby. And Parker helped notify the local Newaygo County Road Commission, and within a week they were out there to fix that culvert, which was obviously beneficial to the Road Commission to not damage the road, but was a really good story to protect the water quality in the White River. So that's a neat story of a young man that's doing some citizen science to protect water quality on the river where he lives. And then we also have some other videos here on the right. We've got about 8 or so videos showcasing both landowners doing interesting things, but also interviews with foresters and fisheries biologists trying to provide some information about some of the important concepts that we're promoting here in Forest for Fish. Uh, you should also know that there's other types of financial assistance available for landowners. The Natural Resources Conservation Service, the NRCS, is an agency within the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And the NRCS has all kinds of funding available for landowners to fix resource concerns or environmental problems that are on their property using conservation practices. And NRCS has been working with agricultural landowners for the last 75 years or so. In the last 10 or 15 years, they've also really expanded the work that they're doing with forest landowners. And there are some excellent conservation practices associated with forestry and water quality and fish habitat here in Michigan. And quite frankly, these practices are underutilized because the NRCS relies on landowners coming into their local service centers and applying for funding to implement these practices. And we need to have more foresters and loggers that are promoting these practices. We'd like to see more foresters describe these types of conservation practices in management plans so that landowners can be doing more things like riparian forest buffer and stream bank protection and getting some funding for stream crossings and replacing undersized culverts with properly sized culverts, building forest trails and landings, working on stream habitat. The NRCS has funding that will help offset the costs of putting large woody structures in the water to improve fish habitat. And the NRCS also has some funding for aquatic organism passage to remove barriers like old earthen dams and so forth. So the NRCS really is a great resource for funding and information for landowners about how to fix some of the environmental problems in their woods and in their waters. And as loggers and truckers and foresters in the forest products industry, we really want to be helping landowners learn about these programs and access these programs. And really the best place to go is down to the local NRCS service center. And you can find a list of all the NRCS offices in Michigan if you go to that website there with NRCS. Now, one thing, unfortunately, that Forest for Fish doesn't provide is a payment for ecosystem service. This is a concept where beneficiaries should provide or should pay the providers for the services that they get. And payments for ecosystem services are actually happening in places like New York City and in Quito, Ecuador, and out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where people in cities are paying money either voluntarily or through a utility fee on their water utility bill to invest in protecting the watershed and the upstream part the watershed that provides the water to their city municipal system. And that is certainly a concept that I would love to see come here to Michigan. I don't know of anyone here in Michigan that is actually making payments for water quality benefits that forests provide. But even though loggers are not currently being compensated for providing clean water through good forest management, loggers should certainly take credit for the good work that they're doing out in the woods. A couple of years ago, the Great Lakes Governors Compact tried to create this Blue Growth Fund where they put together a prospectus and went down to Wall Street and were looking for some capital investments and getting Wall Street to make investments in forest management and agriculture and improving the infrastructure, recognizing that the Great Lakes region is a significant global resource in terms of, the 20% of the world's fresh water supply, but huge part of the economy of both the United States and Canada is centered around the Great Lakes. Unfortunately, the proponents of the Blue Growth Fund were not able to convince Wall Street to invest in this fund. So this Blue Growth Fund never did get up off the ground, and instead they're now hosting this website here, the Great Lakes Impact Investment Platform, where they're showcasing some innovative projects where people are doing good work to protect forests and manage them well, and modify agriculture to reduce the amount of nutrients that are being delivered into the Great Lakes, and investing in clean water infrastructure. Um, so unfortunately, we've got a ways to go on payments for ecosystem services here in Michigan, but loggers should be aware of this concept and should recognize that when you're doing good work in the woods, you are providing significant ecological benefits that have economic value, even if they're not being properly valued in the marketplace and even if you're not being compensated for that. But certainly be aware that you are providing clean water and good fish habitat here in Michigan and throughout the Great Lakes. There's a lot of other things that loggers and foresters and the forest products industry can do. Everyone in Michigan can do more for clean water. There's a long list of things here on this slide of things to consider, but three basic categories of things that we all need to be doing here to protect clean water in Michigan. Reducing consumption is one of the things that we all need to do in terms of recognizing that industry and agriculture is a source of pollution and is a threat to clean water here in Michigan. And the only way that we're ever going to tackle that problem is to reduce our consumption as consumers. There's other things that we can do to increase our action. If you live in a rural area on a septic system, make sure that your septic system gets checked every 5 years. Michigan State University has done some research that shows that more than a third of septic systems around the state of Michigan are failing. We need to encourage landowners to plant trees near water to protect soil and water quality, primarily in agriculture and in urban areas, but we need to be doing a good job to protect the riparian zones and using best management when we're logging. We also need to pay more attention to policy. Policy and common sense, middle of the road regulation is necessary to protect water quality. And we need to make sure that local, state, and national policies are paying attention to clean water and are properly regulating the use and the quality of water. So take a look at the policies in your community and pay attention to policies at the state and national level. And we all need to be advocating for good policy that's going to protect clean water. And we all need to be doing our part to exceed regulations to make sure that we're protecting water quality here in Michigan. And this idea of the connection of forest and water is not a new idea. Actually, since the very origins of the national forest system back in the late 1800s, forests have been recognized for their role in providing clean water and water for navigation and for all the things that clean water provides here in our forest ecosystem. So there's a long history of foresters and loggers and landowners recognizing the connections between forests and forest management and the all the benefits that water provides. And even though we're not being compensated for water as a forest product, it really is one of Michigan's most important forest products. And the clean water, the 6 trillion gallons of water passing through Michigan's 20 million acres of forest every year is essential to life here in Michigan and on the planet, since the Great Lakes are 20% of the world's available fresh water. So finally, in summary, just want to emphasize again that there's a lot of resources for landowners and for loggers and for foresters, for anglers that will help us manage, protect, and enjoy our forests and water here in Michigan. Because forests are incredibly important because they provide abundant clean water and quality fish habitat.